This is NBC6 Breaking News now.
Thanks for joining us for the continuing coverage of President Díaz-Canel from Cuba announcing working relationships now, talking relationships with the U.S. government. We've been following this since 7:30 this morning when that announcement first started.
Yeah, the president there announced that they have been without oil and gasoline for 3 months now. You can assume that that's as soon as the capture of Nicolás Maduro, January 3rd. They were cut off essentially of their 60% of oil imports that they would receive from the Venezuelan government, essentially leaving them without electricity, without a sustainable water supply. They had been seeing blackouts, and interesting enough, shortly ago they said that they've had 30 to 40 hours of blackouts. But what he did say was he wasn't necessarily blaming the government or the revolution, but rather the energy blockade that obviously was imposed by the Trump administration. This is interesting. We've known that hospitals have been challenged by this energy crisis. We know that schools and universities have been challenged by the fact that they don't have internet access. And they said tens of thousands of people, including children, waiting for surgeries due to the lack of electricity. That is something that Díaz-Canel announced a short time ago in this news conference. We've been listening in and we've been trying to translate, but I have to tell you that some of the things that he is saying are just so micro related to, what's happening on the island that it's kind of difficult to keep up with what he's saying. And obviously they're very careful about the way that they word things, and you almost have to read between the lines to understand what is being disseminated onto the island and what's being disseminated through state-run media. So we're putting together essentially context clues to have an understanding of what he's saying. But the big picture here and the takeaway is that the United States and Cuba have been in talks, and they are publicly announcing this. We knew that this could be happening with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, essentially the architect of putting this deal or change or economic sanctions, changes in that were probably happening with him and who he was talking to in the Castro regime. But at this point, now you have Díaz-Canel, who is essentially saying, yes, confirming we are in talks with the United States, and we're acting with international actors. That's who's working these dealings. We know yesterday they announced the release of 51, that they're going to start releasing 51 prisoners, but he has not addressed this. At least I have not heard him address that yet, but we know that came out yesterday in Cuban state media.
Yeah, and obviously that is in the heels of this announcement. That is big news for 51 people to be released from the island's jails. It's not clear if who they are exactly, who's going to be released. As we know, there are hundreds who are in the jails there in Cuba. The government saying Thursday night, as you just mentioned hours ago, that 51 people from the island's prisons would be released in the coming days. The government would not identify exactly who would be released, except to say that all have served a significant part of their sentences and have maintained good conduct while in prison. So that gives us an idea of who would be released. But again, as Shelley had mentioned, and she's listening in as well, that we have not heard him speak specifically to that, but that was a big announcement to come in. Breaking news last night that these prisoners would be released leading up to Holy Week. Again, we're not sure if it's going to be happening today or in the days to come, but obviously in the hills of this big announcement that happened roughly, 40 minutes ago, he started speaking, the president there.
I think the natural question for so many and what's on everyone's mind is what is next? What does this necessarily mean? The goal was never really clear as far as was it negotiation with the fact that President Trump was putting these strict measures in place to essentially put the Cuban nation in a chokehold and bring him to the negotiating table. Were they forcing communists from power, or were they looking for opening up economic conversations? And basically what we're seeing here is these rare comments from this leader could eventually lead to the biggest economic opening since the state seized and enacted these sanctions back in 1961 in the wake of the Cuban Revolution.